Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into. Man, it's been like 3 weeks since I've been on here, man. I think I missed everybody, all four of y'all who be tuning in on a regular basis. I'm gonna call this season two. Season one was that period from like March, once I left radio here in Philly to probably about July. And then school started and school started to hit me kind of heavy. So I took a few weeks off, but we are back. Today is October 5th, 2020. I listen, it's a few things that I learned from having this bald head, right? I realized that my head is a little odd shaped, and then I noticed that my glasses is they never just sit quite right. Like I think I got like the Blank Man. If you're not familiar with Blank Man, one of the all-time greatest, amazingest black superheroes of all time. And his glasses used to be crooked. And so I'm starting to notice like all these imperfections, but like Brene Brown said, right? Like the gifts of our imperfections. So because I wear my glasses crooked and I got a lopsided head, that might mean I'm in other areas I am thriving, not only living but thriving. So shout out to the people who are tuned in on Facebook Live. Listen, I feel it feels good to be back on Facebook Live. I had that little 6 to 7 week ban for on Facebook for talking about, and I know what I was talking about. At least I think I know what I was talking about. It had to do with that doctor. It had to do with that doctor from that place where my ancestors are from, Africa, and it had to do with y'all president, not mine, and all the rhetoric that she was talking. How interesting, a few months later, we are here in this position where y'all mans test positive for COVID-19. And so they gave me that little 6 week break. They sat me down. Honestly, I have no idea what bans mean anymore. And I'm going to talk about, that's going to be one of the things that we talk about, this ban that's taking place for talking ill and wishing ill towards somebody, and how that can have you with a suspended account and a blocked account. But it feels good to be back on my own Facebook Live account. I think. Let me go to the phones. Now I gotta go check because I don't even know if it's registering. And this is the difficult part, man. When you going live and you trying to make it happen. Oh, all right, we on, and we kicking and we here. So I just had to make sure that the ban was indeed lifted. Shout out to you, Mark, whatever your last name is, Zuckerberg. Shout out to those people who are watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you notice, I have a new YouTube name, Phil MSW, PHIL MSW. So make sure you hit that subscribe link. Again, greatly appreciate it. I probably will never monetize off this, but I don't necessarily do it for the monetization aspect of it. I just do it to spread knowledge, to spread information, to talk my ish in a world that makes it difficult for black folk to truly be able to talk they ish in a way that they fashion. You dig me? So we're gonna get right into the conversation for the night. Listen, I thought I was gonna come back and it was gonna be nothing happening on October 5th. I had this date circled on my calendar, like, all right, I'm ready for it to come back. And then I was like, well, wait, what if there is nothing to talk about? Maybe I should have a guest. Maybe I should, show a movie like it's class. When they used to, I'm old enough when they used to reel in the TV on the cart, right? And you just knew you was about to watch something that was gonna be fire, and it never ended up being fire. But I had no idea what I was gonna talk about. And then y'all mans dropped the bombshell. Y'all man on Friday said, when it was Friday on that late night when you drop something on social media that you really don't want people to catch wind of. You'll see sports teams do it a lot. Or different businesses, organizations. If they have to release something and they don't really want people to know about it, or they want it to go under the radar, you release it on a Friday. Why? Because the people have the weekends and they're focusing on that. as opposed to worrying about what the content is, because people are putting in that work day in and day out. Shout out to Malcolm White, who was tuned in on Facebook Live. Appreciate you, brother. And so about 12:54 a.m. on Friday, y'all president, not mine, came out and said, listen, Fotis and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. Now, truth be told, I saw this maybe about Saturday afternoon. And all I could do was just laugh. It's effed up that my first reaction to hearing him say that he has the Rona was to laugh. But for all the havoc that he has raised, not only within the last 3 to 4 years, see, that's the misconception that a lot of people have. And again, you know how I am. You know, I talk a lot about race. I talk a lot about race. Shout out to Poppy Chulos tuned in. Much love to you too, brother. I talk a lot about race, right? And so for the last 3 or 4 years, white folk got to see the nasty side of Donald Trump, right? The hateful side. But for black folk, we've known it since the late 80s, right? Because we call them the what? The exonerated five. If we're talking about on a national scale where everybody knows about what's taking place, we're not even talking about, you know, what was taking place with housing and what have you. But on a macro level, we knew who he was when he took out that full page ad in the New York newspaper talking about the exonerated five, who were once known as the Central Park five black men who were wrongfully convicted of a crime that they did not commit, that they should be put to death. I don't think he's apologized for it yet. If you're not familiar with the story, go check out, what is it, When They See Us. I haven't watched it, right? Shout out to Ava DuVernay, but you know, I try not to do recreational trauma except for my little first 48 crime issue that I have, and I'm trying to work through that. But what y'all religious folks say? He not done with me yet, right? And so we knew who Donald Trump was. We knew who he is, and now the world gets to see. And so him testing positive, for some folk, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Donald, no." For 98.9% of black folk, he was like, "Oh, word? That's crazy." And so if you get a black person that says, "Yo, that's crazy," that means, yo, we could have told your ass, "Oh, you dumb mother sucker." Right? That's what you're getting when you hear that. And so a lot of us are apathetic to him catching this virus. Why? Because statistics show that black and brown folk have been hit the hardest by COVID. We understand the health disparities that exist, which makes us so much more susceptible to the negative effects of corona. And so here you have somebody, denying the impact of COVID and what it's had not only on black and brown folk, but on a country. I was listening to Karen Hunter today, and she was talking about she was trying to go to another country just to get away during the election. And they told her when she called to find out about travel, they said, listen, where you coming from? She said, America. They said, listen, well, if you come, you're going to have to quarantine for 5 to 7 days. We have 0 infections here. Word. This great nation this supposed great nation is being rejected by other nations who've actually handled corona in a way where it's not continuing to jeopardize the lives of their citizens. And so we look at it like, y'all got my man Fauci out of there, right? Fauci was the only one who was like, listen, these are the facts. I have no stake in the game. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Social distance. Fauci, the only person that said, listen, well, he's not the only person, but you get what I'm saying. He said, listen, this is just the first wave. Second wave going to come and it's going to hit harder. If we don't adhere to these very basic things, such as wearing a mask and other recommendations. Your leader, your commander-in-chief, y'all's president said, man, F out of here, man. I'm cool. Because why? He's the petulant child. Many of us parents can relate where you tell your child, like, listen, put some gloves on. It's a little nipply out there. And yes, I said nipply. I meant to say that. It's a little nipply out there. Go ahead and put the gloves on. Put the hat on. Because you want to be cold. No, I'm cool. And what happens? I was cold today. I was freezing. I'm still freezing. I think I might be sick now. Even though we know you can't catch a cold from cold air. If you didn't know that, bam, there you go. Right? And so he's like, nah, I'm out here. I'm out here. I'm going to the club. I'm going to these parties. I'm going to dinner. Just like some of y'all are doing right now. Like the pandemic isn't over. Right? Shout out to Dane tuned in. But he wanted to be everywhere, disregarding the CDC recommendations. He had his Tulsa rally. Rest in peace, Herman Cain. Now they doing the nastiest ish. They're still tweeting from Herman Cain's account. That just don't sit well with me. Personally. Like, he died. Let him be with the ancestors. Even though when he crossed over, and it's just like at the cookout over there with Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and all them. At the cookout with the black folk, they can be like, Herm, what was you doing? I don't know what Herm's answer gonna be. That's a conversation you got to have with them. But he died from this very thing. And so to be out here continuing to be reckless, endangering the lives of others, not caring about the folk, the essential workers who are out here, not setting an example for these rogue governors, Florida, Texas. Y'all know how I feel about Florida and Texas. If you from Florida and Texas, you weird too. I'm certain of it. But instead of being an example, being a leader, he was out here gallivanting. You remember the Cosby episode where Vanessa, where they go? They went to Baltimore. They went to go see the Wretched. They wanted to go have big fun. Right? They wanted to have big fun. And Trump wanted to have big fun. And what did his big fun end up making him catch? The Rona. But it's not even him catching the Rona. It's the time frame, right, of how all of this has transpired. And so it started at the Rose Garden. And those of you who are watching on Facebook Live and YouTube, y'all can see the picture of the little boy from The Sixth Sense, him riding in the car, and you got all the people at the Rose Garden, no mask in sight. I see dead people. Because dozens of people have tested positive who were at that Rose Garden, where he declared who he wanted his Supreme Court justice to be, where he identified. Shout out to the ice cream man. And so a dozen people ended up testing positive for Rona. Listen, I'm not it's not True Blood. What's that other dumb show people be watching? Where they had the red wedding. I don't know. One of y'all tell me who watched. I watched it for like, and yes, I called it dumb because it got dumb after season 3. It's not True Blood, but y'all know what I'm talking about. The red wedding. That's what some people are comparing it to. Where Jon Snow and all of them. See, now it's gonna bug me if I don't. Let me look it up real quick. Game of Thrones. There we go. Game of Thrones. Some people comparing the Rose Garden to the red wedding, which is nuts. It's like people went there to die. Now, we don't want to think of it in that terms, right? Because as a culture, as a society, we're not taught to truly have discussions about death and dying. People are extremely uncomfortable about having conversations about death and dying. Especially when you're putting yourselves in situations where that can be a very real outcome. We use it to scare people. But who was going to be there to say, listen, you know what? This might not be the best idea. Who was that one person that came to the Rose Garden that put the mask on and was like, if we out here, I know the Rona out here, and I'm not getting caught up. I'm not with the shenanigans. I don't know who had the wherewithal to do that. Why? Because not only did Trump get sick, right? And not Bernie, I wish it was Bernie, but Joe Biden tested negative. Even though they had some interaction from several feet away. And what's interesting about that debate is Trump and his squad came up and they just walked in. Just like going to the club. And so they go to the club and they're like, oh, you can't get in here. You need a mask. You need a mask on to get in. And he said, listen, I never was a Boy Scout. Is this it? Is this the Boy Scout or is this the Star Trek? The Scout's honor, 3. If my fingers get too crazy, I might be throwing up a Divine 9 sign and I don't want them to come after me because I know how they get. But he said, listen, no, we ain't got it. We cool. We Gucci. They let him in anyway. Imbeciles. But again, who are you? Are you going to deny the president? Right? Like, look at these spaces and where people are left to make life and death decisions against their own better judgment, probably. And so after that, he started having the symptoms. I'm not going to belabor this. He started having symptoms. They went from a little asymptomatic to then having symptoms to him being on a oxygen machine. And all of this transpired within like 24 hours. But let's take a look at the people who tested positive. All of these folk. Chris Christie. I'm not going to say he deserved to test positive, but for what he did in Jersey, listen. And if we're talking about survival of the fittest, man, some people just got to get up out the paint. Sometimes you just got to, listen, and this is the reckoning I've been having, right? Like, I'm never one to call people stupid. I always try to shoot people bail, right? And these are the people who didn't test positive. I always try to shoot people bail. Try to look at everything from a strengths-based perspective. But sometimes just dumb is dumb and stupid is stupid. And we just got to call it at some point. If you have all the information and you choose not to act and something happens, is it my responsibility as a human being to have some type of empathy? Right? Is it my responsibility to have some type of empathy? You know, we got it's children locked in cages. We got Muslim bans. You got an ever widening wealth margin between black folk and white folk. I still gotta say, oh, even if it's costing me my life, but this is more of a slow death, is it my responsibility? For me, I say hell no. I say hell no. Don't make me hit you with that James Baldwin quote. You know what I mean? If I could pull it up in like 2.3 seconds, I'll bring it up. Matter of fact, let me look it up. I'm not gonna look it up. Because he got so many dope quotes. I'll fall down a rabbit hole, and I'll get away from the conversation. But again, man, if I can't say that I have any type of sympathy or empathy for you. All you do is listen. I hope you learned your lesson. I hope it's a teachable moment for you if you indeed survive. But then again, how can I have empathy for somebody who says, yo, go pull the wheel up? Mr. Trump, why? Yo, go pull the wheel, pull the van up, man. Pull it up. Why, sir? Listen, I want to get in and drive around the block and wave at motherfuckers. Like, who? The unmitigated gall to be able to say that. Yo, go bring the wheel around. Pull the car around, man. I want somebody to drive me around the block so I could wave at all the people supporting me. I don't even blame him. Like, people get mad at Trump for that, right? I don't blame him. I blame the people around him. Right? The scuttlebutt is Trump Jr. is pissed off with his pop. They're saying his pop acted, allegedly his pop is, they're saying that allegedly Trump Jr. is saying that his pop is acting quote unquote crazy. You know how I feel about that term, especially when this is National Mental Illness Awareness Week. But Trump Jr. is concerned. But somebody needed to intervene and say, no, that can't happen right now, sir. That's not in the best interest of you or anybody else, especially the people that's going to be in that van with you. But again, do you tell the president no? He has the highest title in the land. Some of y'all scared to tell y'all supervisor no. That's why I can't do bureaucracies and organizations. I don't want to say scared. But people think about the consequences related. And what's the consequences? You're fired. Knowing how he is. And so they got up in the van. They got up in the truck. Which is what you're seeing now. Your man was waving. Your man was waving, driving around the block in the Escalade, the Suburban. But you know what I would have been doing? This is what I would have been doing if I would have saw that and I was outside.
All right. That's some Europeans circling around the prince. I don't have to pull off the shoddy.
Some Europeans out here. some Europeans out here. We got to make sure that they not coming for the prince. I got to be out of there. But again, that's people who are able to think logically and sensibly about what COVID means. Truth be told, he's still winning. Why is he winning? Because look at where we are as a society when it comes to just COVID. People out here living their best lives. I can't lie, I go to the gym a couple times a week, but I try to socially distance and be sanitized and do all of that. But I see people eating out. 680, y'all. What always drives me wild is I see pictures of people. Yo, I just ran into so and so on the link up. I haven't seen him in a while. Let me take my mask off. Wait, what? You haven't seen so and so in a while, and you taking your mask off. Listen, I think we all got Trump-itis, Trump disease at one level or another. But again, do I have empathy for this guy? I can't say that I do. And I think it's okay that we're honest and say that we don't. I think it's okay to say, listen, if something happens to the guy, because I don't want to get banned again. I don't want to get suspended again off Facebook Live or YouTube. YouTube, they give you 3 strikes and you're out. But if somebody wants to wish ill will towards Bull and say, listen, I hope you don't make it out of there, I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him one iota. Because why? Again, how can you tell the aggrieved how to feel? How do you tell the aggrieved how to feel? You can't, right? You can't. And so black folk have a right to be angry. Brown folk have a right to be angry. Our Muslim brethren have a right to be angry. But if something happened and you perish, well, I'm going to call you Robert. Y'all don't get that. That's Robert Parrish. Like Parrish. That's wordplay. Was that a double entendre, triple entendre? I'm not sure. But it was one of them. Right? But it was one of them. And so when we're having this conversation about people perishing, and again, I might be banned after this because of the topic that we're about to talk about now. Oh, wait. He's home. Yeah, he's leaving today, so he's home. That's it. I don't even want to get into that because I don't care personally. But according to Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, they will suspend accounts wishing Trump, and as you see, I put in quotation marks to save myself, ill will. And what's mind-boggling about that is the mere fact that people have been sending death threats to politicians for eons, right? And Twitter hasn't been along for eons, right? But people have been sending death threats, wishing bodily harm towards people on social media forever, since it's been in existence. In particular, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, and Ilhan Omar, affectionately known as the Squad. 4 black indigenous people of color who identify as women, some of them Muslim women, who have been receiving death threats on these very platforms. Yet, they haven't been protected. These accounts haven't been suspended. And so if you're looking at it from the viewpoint of them, how could you not say that Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok is not racist? How can you not say they aren't racist? Sexist? How can you not say these things when you see this transpiring? And so Twitter came out with a statement, and I'm not going to belabor you with the details, but they say we do not tolerate content that wishes, hopes, or expresses a desire for DEATH, seriously bodily harm or fatal disease against an individual or group of people. If we identify accounts that violate these rules, we will take enforcement action. Right? But they're saying it doesn't mean an automatic permanent suspension, but instead a temporary one. So why now? Why now? Why? Because it's the highest title in the land? It's because it's a white man? Y'all let me know. Because I can't make sense of it. It doesn't make sense to me. Right? But again, this should show us that as much time, as much effort that we put into these social media platforms, myself included, that they don't really give a damn about you. This isn't about the layperson. They don't care about you. They don't care if you're a BIPOC politician, especially a woman. They do not care about you. But yet we're spending all of their time helping them maximize their dollars. They're making money off the backs of us. But yet we aren't afforded the same protections. I've been cursed out a few times. All I get is report them. Do you want to block them now? You can block them. They don't give me the, listen, we're going to suspend them for their actions towards you. We know how they operate when it comes to black empowerment posts. Conveniently, they seem to violate terms. Some people say, well, it's people reporting it. Could very well be true. Or the algorithm is designed as such. But again, we have to reevaluate our relationships with these platforms because they're telling you who they will and who they will not protect. So I saw a question on IG. Let me see what the question was. Why do people bring up old things that Biden said? Not saying he's the best when Trump is saying and doing anything he wants now. People should bring up the things that Biden talked about, where they're talking about super predators and supporting crime bills and all the various things. Why? Because we can't have this assumption that people have changed, right? And so you have to bring it up. You have to hold them accountable for the things that they've said previously, yes. It's not to say he hasn't made strides. But also, I'm not mad at people who say, F both of them. I'm not participating in this. Because again, you can't tell the aggrieved how to feel. And if the aggrieved says, listen, I have a family member, and I know several people who are freedom fighters, who are abolitionists, who have watched person after person be sentenced to 40, 50, 60 years for nonviolent crimes. And Biden has played a part in that. I can't get mad at them for saying, you know what, middle finger to you. I'm okay. And you shouldn't either, right? Because we have this idea of y'all. If you aren't familiar with me, you know my thoughts on voting, right? I think it's a tool. It's no different than a hammer, a construction worker with the hammer. But sometimes the hammering just doesn't work, right? Especially if it's a hammer that has a lot of questionable parts to it. Don't ask me how a hammer has a questionable part, but just ride with it. You know what I'm talking about. The Electoral College. All we doing is, listen, this is who we want you to vote for. And then my next door neighbor little 19-year-old self, little 38-year-old self, little 74-year-old self goes and says, all right, you know what? All of y'all want me to vote for so-and-so? All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to vote for so-and-so. Right? But we know in the last election, in 2016, out of every election that has taken place, it had the most electoral votes that went to people other than the popular vote. One went to Bernie Sanders. Somebody sent one to Jill Stein. And so even if we're talking about 7 or 8, that should show you right there where we are with this system and why it needs to be abolished. But again, there's, as we saw during the summer, you want some ifs to change? You need to get up. You need to mobilize. You need to make it happen. You can't be a convenient ally when it's convenient, like so many of these businesses have been. Look at cops. They canceled cops in June. In September, they are now shooting cops again. I believe it's in Washington where they're shooting it. But it won't air in the U.S. Because why? They have to get after the bag, man. They have to get after the bag. Because we know that that's the bottom line. And so with that, it's already 8:08. I gave y'all 38 straight minutes of conversation. Shout out to Raphael, man. I gotta get you on here, Raphael, so we can shoot the ish, man. But listen, I'm gonna play y'all this. I ain't gonna even hit y'all with Umar. Listen, feel free to donate. Quantify LLC, the cash tag in front of it. It's always appreciated. But I'm gonna play this Baldwin, and then I'm out of here.
The reason that black people are in the streets has to do with the lives they're forced to lead in this country. And they're forced to lead these lives by the indifference and the apathy and a certain kind of ignorance, a very willful ignorance on the part of their co-citizens. Everybody knows, no matter what they do not know, that they wouldn't like to be a black man in this country. They know that, and they shut their minds against the rest of it, all the implications of being a black father, or a black woman, or a black son, and all of the implications involved in a human being's endeavor to take care of his wife, to take care of his children, to raise his children to be men and women in the teeth of a structure which is built to deny that I can be a human being, or that my child can be. The great question in the country has been, all the years that I've been living here, and I was born here 43 years ago, is what does a Negro want? And this question masks a terrible knowledge. I want exactly what you want. And you know what you want. I want to be left alone. I don't want any of the things that people accuse Negroes of wanting. And I don't hate you. I simply want to be able to raise my children in peace and arrive at my own maturity in my own way, in peace. I don't want to be defined by you. I think that you and I might learn a great deal from each other if you can overcome the curtain of my color. The curtain of my color is what you use to avoid facing the facts of our common history, the facts of American life. It is easy to call me a Negro or a nigger or a promising black man, but in fact, I'm a man like you. I want to live like you. This country is mine, too. I paid as much for it as you. White means that you are European still, and black means that I'm African. And we both know, we've both been here too long. You can't go back to Ireland or Poland or England, and I can't go back to Africa. And we will live here together, or we'll die here together. And it's not I am telling you. Time is telling you. You will listen or you will perish.
Such powerful words, man. We're going to live here together or we're going to die here together. But I'm not dying from y'all COVID that y'all getting from being out here wilding out. Until tomorrow night, peace.